Now we're going to talk about marketing and portals, two subjects very close to my heart. Now, we get this stat and we've had it consistently for the last 3 years, and it's always about this number. 71% of agents surveyed said they identify Rightmove as their most effective marketing channel. So, my question to you, Chris, you sort of represent marketing on this panel to an extent.
Yep.
If portals disappeared tomorrow, how many agents would still know how to generate demand?
Oh, that's a tough question, Simon, isn't it? Look, I genuinely believe that the portals have significant value. So actually, all of the portals, whichever is your preferred flavour, I think they have significant value. I think if you hark back to, my roots in journalism, and having to take out pages of newspaper advertising in the 90s, the 2000s, whatever, and prior, the cost of actually doing that versus the cost of portals which are serving on-demand customers as they're searching is comparable. And so I actually don't think they're particularly bad value for money. The issue with just relying on the portals as your marketing methodology is that they are serving people at point of sale. Mm-hmm. So you're coming to the market, or people coming to Rightmove often 6 to 6 months prior to moving, or when they're actively in the market. Where agencies are winning and are excelling is actually thinking of this moving journey as a much longer cycle. So the average cycle, Mr. Watkin will correct me, I think is still 9 years ish between buying and selling. In that early part of moving, you're not going to be particularly interested, but probably 3 years out from actually starting to think about your next move, you'll be starting to think, oh, I wonder what's out there, I wonder what this, I wonder what that. And it's the job of businesses of every type, not just agents, because we work with a plethora of industries, to be consistently marketing so that you become the agent of choice. So you become the agent of choice in your local area, and your personal brand becomes so synonymous with property that you are effectively able to convert long before they get to a sort of active search on portals. And I think the best agencies, whether it's a self-employed model, whether it's individual brand, whether it's franchised, the best agents are front-loading the market and becoming this voice of property within their individual spaces. And Chris has worked with hundreds of agents over the years to do that, so that they become so synonymous with property that you can't help but use them when you come to market. And I think just relying on portals is effectively business suicide, because all you're doing is serving now. It's the Amazon model of, I need dishwasher tablets, I'll buy them now and they'll be delivered tomorrow. But actually Amazon are much smarter than that, with their Prime Video and with their service delivery and the trust that you have in in that methodology. And I think you need to build that trust, that knowledge, that that interest in your business, so that you are effectively the only choice when people come to market, and the other two agents are just there for comparables.
I think the other thing to bear in mind as well, and I've spoken at a few of the property market events, so I've seen the Rightmove presentation, and I'm sure the other portals have similar tools, but actually if you are subscribing to 1, 2 or 3 of the portals, are you using every tool available to you within that subscription? So it's not really answering the question that you've just asked, but I think there is so much, they provide so much resource that I think, if I ran an agency, I would be using every single report I could in order to maximise my advantage.
Yeah, but they are value for money. I genuinely believe that.
I was with a portal on Friday last week, and I was talking to one of the senior leaders there. Their biggest frustration is the lack of tools within the platform that are used. And they even had a conversation with the senior leader of a very major group, and they said, we're not getting the value out of our portal subscription. So they did a presentation of what they were actually using of the portal. And it's fair to say the entire conversation switched to, we're getting it wrong, not the portal. We're not using what the portal could even give us. And I used to work in local newspapers. Compare them.
Oh yeah, it's chalk and cheese, isn't it?
So Christopher, I mean, just directly, if literally overnight all the portals vanish, you speak to hundreds of estate agents and letting agents, how many of them are going to struggle?
I'd like to go one step back to go to.
Okay, fine.
I think estate agents see the portal not as a shop window, which is basically putting the properties to the real customers of Rightmove are the people looking at the properties. That what estate agents do is because they pay for it, because they're the one, they see it as a stock room, not a shop front, and we as agents don't really care. When they say don't care, our job is to put the properties out there to the punters, but we want listings back in return. So they see this money that they're spending and what they want in return are vendors' leads. The job of the portal is not to get you vendor leads. The job of the portal is to put the properties in front of the punters, and you should be doing separate marketing, like like our mutual friend David at Cavendish in Chester, who's one of the best agent marketeers. You need to do separate marketing. And if you look at 99% of estate agents' marketing away from the portals, it's just Facebook full of listings, which again is just like Rightmove with the word Facebook at the top. No wonder they find it really hard. But yeah, social media, you'd get it out there. Don't worry. It's all about getting the properties in front of the punters and doing separate marketing to bring the punters to you, the vendors.
Brilliant. Claire, from your perspective?
Okay, so I'm very old school, so I remember the papers too. And the papers advertised, but they didn't generate any leads. People called in, and they didn't email even, because I'm really old and dinosaurs were still roaming around and we were selling caves. But the point is that the office that we had, we were selling 50 houses a month, every month, and we turned over 1 million in 1997. 4 negotiators. Our job was to go out, get recommendations, get referrals, to actually prospect, to network, to sponsor, to talk about our jobs, to be visible in the community in a way that we were the obvious choice for everybody, and very much what you were saying. And there is an agent in our town, I'm not sure whether I'm allowed to say it, but I'm going to say it, Parker's, Brendan Kay.
Top chap.
He is recommended by almost everybody, but he networks on a Friday. He doesn't do the estate agency in the pub thing the way he used to do it. He goes and sits there and he networks with the community. He is the voice of property in our town. And he's done that by being a really lovely guy with a fantastic business that I would recommend in a heartbeat. All other agents in Witney are equally good, I'm sure, but he's the one that everybody says. So I think we've forgotten how to prospect completely. I think we've forgotten how to nurture a lead. I used to have a 1 to 31 filing cabinet, and we spoke to our sellers regularly every month until they were ready to come on. I was with an agent this week and last week, and they don't do that anymore. They've forgotten. It's when they remember.
I was talking to someone at a show recently, and they said, this software will help you get more leads. Well, won't they produce a listing for me? No, you have to get off your backside and do some work. I think a lot of people are lazy. They want it now. We're so used to, in the game of life of finding a partner, it's swipe right for love. Everything's swipe right, but you can't swipe right for a listing, can you?
No, and I think this is trusting people with your front door key and burglar alarm code. Your presence on the high street matters. Your visibility at school gates matters. So I think we should be putting prospecting back into the heart of all training.
And so much of marketing these days is actually free. So while we do see in the data that the growth agents are investing more in marketing than the agents who are growing, so they are across more channels they're investing more in, they're also using word of mouth recommendation more than the industry as a whole. This art of actually being part of your community. So you alluded to this earlier, Chris, and I'll come to you in a moment, and this blew my mind. When we surveyed it, and we actually got a genuinely representative sample of several hundred estate agents surveyed through an independent company, and we said, could you account for your effectiveness of your marketing spend?
Yeah.
31%, a third of agents said they couldn't account for the effectiveness of their marketing spend. Among growth agents, as you said, that fell to an almost insignificant 2%.
2%.
So I don't know who wants to take this, but in your own businesses, if a finance director couldn't account for a third of the expenditure, wouldn't they be fired? So why do we tolerate it in marketing?
The question is, how are you measuring? And that's the key bit. It's all well and good to say, marketing works, marketing doesn't work. Well, marketing and advertising exists for a reason. The only way people can use your business, regardless of industry or type, is if people know that you exist in the first place. It's all well and good. You could be the best at any job, right? But if you can't actively tell people in any way that you exist, how can they find you? How can they do business with you? So the question, I guess, is, how can you not know the effectiveness of your marketing? So say, for example, you were to invest in some blog writing or whatever, you know where you are right now, you know what you've spent on the blog writing. Well, how many new leads that you think you could probably attribute to that, or actively benchmark, actively ask. That people are so afraid to ask.
Yep.
It's bizarre. How did you find us? Did you see our blog? Did you see our video? Whatever. If you're looking at the number of views, social media and Google Analytics make it easy to see web traffic and whatever. You can geo-fence your advertising now. So with Facebook and LinkedIn and all your other spending on ad spend, you can actually do a protracted period digitally, where you're targeting. You can target individual subsets, groups. Some of the AI tech now around prospecting is unbelievable. I think it's just about asking the question. If you don't know where your leads are coming from, ask the people who are coming in.
Yep.
How did you find us? And it's as simple as that. But I think people are afraid of talking to people. I feel like we've lost almost that communication that
this is a phone.
Yeah, that human element, and we almost rely so much on tech and messaging and email. Just speak to people. Ask them.
Professor Byron Sharp, who runs a part of Aaron Basker, big marketing effectiveness agency down Australia that shares data with the rest of the world, he said people will always challenge the effectiveness of marketing until they have a missing pet. And then every single person would have posters around their area to say, my pet is missing. We believe in the effectiveness of putting your message everywhere when we need it, but then we'll challenge it when our businesses need it. So our pet's missing. Every lamppost is covered in a missing pet poster. Our business is missing instructions. We don't think we should do more marketing.
Yeah, but fundamentally,
It's a
everything you do
surreal
is
kind of-
marketing. Everything you do is
Everything.
marketing. Everything you do is marketing. Whether you're speaking to someone, whether you're networking, whether you're going to a meeting, whether you're doing this, whether you're making a video, whether you're putting a press release out, whether you're saying hello to someone in the street, all of that is marketing. It's just how you measure.
Danny?
I think it's even deeper than that. And you think, years and years ago I was a hairdresser, and I think hairdressing and estate agents is very, very similar in that you go in at 16 normally, you do what is essentially an apprenticeship, you become good at the thing, whether it's cutting hair or valuing houses, and then you go out on your own and you open a salon or you open an estate agency. But what being good at valuing houses doesn't teach you is how to run a business. And you don't know what you don't know. And I think to admit, I don't know most things in the world, and I read 50 books a year. So I think if you start with that in mind, most of us don't know most things.
Yeah.
But to admit you don't know something requires a level of humility. And I think to your point about, most of them don't invest in training, they don't invest in marketing, they don't invest in operational excellence or anything like that because they don't know it exists or they don't know they're not very good at it. So I think they don't know what marketing is.
Yeah.
So actually, it's like, well, we do some social posts. Okay, that's not really marketing. Well, we sponsor the local football team. That's not really, they're tools within the marketing sphere. They're not marketing in and of themselves. And obviously this is your area of expertise, but I think they don't know how or what to measure. And that's the fundamental issue with it.
No, I agree completely. And I would say for everyone listening, and if you haven't been on the 30 Years of Marketing in One Day course, we teach about what marketing is. And this is the free bit of advice, and people will be tired of me saying it. Word of mouth is fundamental. Everything Claire says 100%. Talk to people, be in your community. But if you want to know what marketing channels you should be on consistently, patiently, never not be on them, it is PR, email, social media, and direct mail. You've got to be on them at all times. All four, not 1, 2, or 3, all four, all the time.
You're talking about the method of getting the message out there, but we're not actually talking about what the message should be, which should be the ultimate thing. What are we saying? Because there's loads of people out there that are on Facebook, on LinkedIn, but the messages that they're chucking out are appalling.
100% to what you're both saying is marketing is often reduced to the promotional element. It's the promotions that we talk about. And I think I have to say the PR, email, social media, direct mail, because so many people just don't do it, and it's so simple. But you're both absolutely right. Is your message is more important. What is it you're actually saying than the medium you're saying it through? And too many businesses don't spend enough time actually looking at the message they want to share and critically showing how they are distinctive to other players in the market.
It's also
and how they add value.
It's who are you trying to talk to, and what do you want them to think and do? That's it.
Ultimately, the biggest problem that estate agents have is either being called out to the valuation or losing it on the sofa to cheap fees and overvaluing. You've got to solve the first one before you can solve the second one. So how do you get called out to more valuations? basically you talk about what's of interest to your audience, which is local homeowners, which is how much is my house worth, the next one I want to buy, and I love living in Grantham. Those are the three things. So what you do, the answers are quite simple. Talk about the local property market, because everyone wants to know what's the market like. When you're an agent, they always ask you how's the market. The second answer is they love what the next one is the next house they want to buy. So again, presenter-led video tours, which is again, you can do that with, you can do it personally or you can do it professionally. And the final was get involved with the community. And the wonderful thing about social media, this is a thing called local Facebook groups. Join those, because the only people that join Grantham Facebook groups are people from Grantham, and 100% of Grantham homeowners live in Grantham. But join as yourself as a person, not as an agent, and you'll win.
Claire?
There's one more thing that's just fundamental. We put untrained staff on the front line in offices, and they don't understand the questions that they ask. So they use the computer, they use the system to govern the conversation. And it says something like, how did you hear about us? But actually it's one of the questions that most newbies forget to ask. And I know, because I did it, I made it up. I made up the number of walk-ins. I made up the number of people that saw an ad.
First one on the click down.
First one on the click down, I just made it up because I didn't understand the impact. So actually to change the script and say, who recommended us to you? Is the question. Who recommended us to you? And if they say, I wasn't recommended, they say, oh, really? So how did you hear about us? But if you could train your staff just to ask that question every time somebody came to see you, you would get the answer to your marketing. But the staff are not trained to do that.
And also the other thing is we've systematically removed the training ground, because I'm willing to bet we all had a Saturday job. In 1988, it was something like 50% of 16 and 17-year-olds had a Saturday job, and now it's something like 18%, because we've just removed that ability for them, and then they turn up to work and we moan they don't know anything. And how many mistakes did we all make at work between 15 and 18? Loads, but it didn't matter because they knew you were a kid and people were patient and nice. So by the time we actually went and got a proper job at 18, we'd had 3 years of learning, and now they're starting work at like 22 after university, having never had a job. And then we get frustrated with them because they don't learn anything, but we have remote work, so they're not learning by osmosis. How much did you learn just listening to conversations?
And to older people around you, showing you how it's done, 100%.
And we've removed that from them over the last few years, and we're not doing anything to solve it.
Just one final tip. I know you said that you've got to be across all these different themes, in terms of delivery method. It can be quite daunting to try and look at all of this stuff and there is that old adage, how do you eat an elephant, one bite at a time. And I think for me, fundamentally, if you are looking at the whole picture and going, oh, it's just too much to deal with, focus on one channel, maximise that, get comfortable there, and then move and build. Like any other part of your business, focus one place and then shift it and move it and move it.
Have a PR quarter, have an email quarter, have a social media, and build up over time.
Yeah.
So that kind of brings that kind of marketing portals. But I would say, and building what everything said, which will be fantastic advice, is the first thing is download the reports and put them into your large language model. It'll tell you how to make your marketing more effective. But all marketing starts with the market. As everyone said around the panel, is start with talking to and understanding who you are trying to talk to before you do anything. If you don't understand them, what on earth are you saying? So start with the market, and then the market might care about you.